What the Falcons do? Rise up. Welcome to Rise Up Reactions, the show where we talk all things Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general the sports news of the day. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Denning, lifelong Falcons fan. So today I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about preseason game number 1 for the Falcons. This is going to be a really big showing for us. There's a lot of position battles going on as we have basically built the team from the ground up. A lot of positions have changed from last year. A lot of guys are on one-year prove-it deals because we really just don't have the money to pay them this year. We're going against the Detroit Lions. I think we also play the Jacksonville Jaguars. I forget who our other preseason game is. But, teams that are all, if we played them in the regular season, would be pretty winnable. So this is a pretty decent showing to see what we can actually do. Now, things I would not expect. On offense, you're going to see a lot of the backups playing. You're not going to see some of the stars that we just drafted or guys that we're expecting to be first-team starters. You're not going to see a lot of them in the game because you don't want them hurt in preseason in fairly meaningless games. You're going to see a lot of guys that are on the chopping block, a lot of guys that are looking to make big plays that are going to be probably special teamers for us. That's what I expect on offense. Defense, to some degree, the same thing. I expect to see a little bit more of the rookies there just to see what they can do. But again, you're not going to see Grady Jarrett. I would be genuinely surprised if we see him or A.J. Terrell play a single snap in this preseason game. Casey Hayward, too. He's a little bit older at corner. I don't think they're going to put him out there. They'll probably put him out there for the second or third preseason game. Don't think we're going to see a whole lot of them, and we're definitely not going to see our best blitz packages this year, not in preseason. You just don't want teams to have film of that. So this is going to be a fairly easy game for both teams. There's not going to be a lot of surprises. You're going to have a lot of guys that we've never heard of that may end up being impact players. So with that in mind, on offense, I know I said we're not going to see a lot of starters, but we only have 3 quarterbacks to play with here, and one of them is actually working out at tight end and has been because he's unlikely to see the field as a quarterback anytime in the future. That's Felipe Franks. I expect for him to see the yeoman's work of time here, particularly in the second half. I think we may see both Mariota and Desmond Ridder out there early because we've got to figure out what we got. We really just don't have time to let Ridder sit and develop forever. If we end up being bad this year and we have a top draft pick, it would be really irresponsible to not take one of the top prospects for this next year. I think we're already to a point where we don't have time to be, lazy on evaluating him. So, you got to throw him in there, see what he's got. You're going to have to protect him to some degree. So you will see some of our starting offensive linemen for both of them. And then I think you'll see a lot of our backup offensive linemen afterwards. But at wide receiver, our preseason initial depth chart has Zacchaeus and Carterell Hodge being the number 1 and 2 wide receiver. Now, they didn't put really Drake London in here. He's at the back of it. I expect he'll be the wide receiver 1. It's not really a question. Don't panic about it. Just probably not going to try him out there prematurely. But you probably will see him as the preseason goes onward. I am a little bit surprised about Hodge. I guess he's proven himself. He was on the back end of guys to make the team for me when I did my initial video on who I thought would be our receiving core. Brian Edwards and Geronimo Allison are the next 2 on there. I expect both of them to make the team, and Frank Darby as well. He's been with us for a few years now, so I expect him to also make the team. The other guys are all kind of on the chopping block. We'll see what happens with them. Just kind of looking here at our depth chart. Other guys, Demir Bird, Alden Tate, Tyshawn James, and then also you've got, where is it? There was another group. Cameron Batson, Stanley Berryhill, Jared Bernhardt. These are all guys that are fighting hard to make special teams. We might see one of them if we see any of them on the depth chart. Not guys that you should be expecting a lot from. Moving on, we got running back. I still really don't like to see Patterson ahead the depth chart, though. Algier and all the rookies are listed basically at the back end of their position, so Algier may actually be the favorite. I made a comment recently on one of the Facebook posts for the Falcons where I said that, somebody was really optimistic. I'm like, hey, taper your optimism a little bit. We've got Corell Patterson here. He's 32 years old or 31 years old, and they were talking about really for the future we were going to be good. I'm like, okay, so you're talking about 32-year-old Corell Patterson next year being good, and they were like, well, he really hasn't been used that much, so he has a lot of tread on the tires. Well, not really, and here's why. He's still been playing football. He has still been involved in football duties since he was drafted. He's still doing practice. He's still doing all of the OTAs. He is still doing, position drills. he is still doing all of the exercises. The only thing that he hasn't done consistently is play real-time games. But every other football activity he has been doing. So he's still got wear and tear on him, regardless of if you feel like he's fresh or not. He was much better in the beginning of the season than he was towards the end last year. I don't look for him to repeat that, 600 rushing receiving yard combo. Actually, I think he was a little bit down on the receiving. I think he was only about 550 on the receiving. I don't look for that to be the case, which is why in fantasy I'm basically taking him as a running back 4 if I have to take him at all. Really, I'm avoiding him. I'd rather have shares of Tyler Algier. But yeah, I think Algier is going to be the guy there. Damian Williams is still on the depth chart. There's a few other guys there, including Quadri Allison, which I think we'll see a lot of. You got Keith Smith, our fullback. He's probably a lock to make the team just because he's the only one that does that position. Other guys, you got John Rain, Avery Williams, Caleb Huntley. Doubt any of them make the team, but you'll probably see a lot of them at least in the first 2 weeks of the preseason. Moving on to tight end, we have kind of some surprises here. You have Kyle Pitts being number 1 on the depth chart. No surprise there. Parker Hess, this is a guy that's coming from the Titans. He is primarily a blocking tight end. I'm genuinely surprised to see him on the depth chart here as the, lining up on the other side of the offensive line. Just a guy that's kind of come out of nowhere. And then the next guy on the depth chart, Michael Pruitt, also a Titans guy, who is a little bit more of a mix. He had 3 receiving touchdowns last year, but he's primarily a blocking tight end. And then John Fitzpatrick is another guy that I'm interested in from Georgia. He was our very last pick in the 2022 draft. And Anthony Ferkser as well. So we have 3 Titans, former Titans, as of last year, tight ends on our depth chart. I think that it's probably just a little bit of Arthur Smith kind of putting a little favoritism there, but we'll see what happens. Moving on to our offensive line, very, very, very briefly here. Our starting offensive line is as follows, if this holds true. Left tackle, Jake Matthews, no surprise there. Center, Matt Hennessy. Right guard, Chris Lindstrom. I think not one of those is a surprise. Left guard, Elijah Wilkinson, a former backup for the Jets that we brought on for a fairly cheap deal. He has supplanted Jalen Mayfield as the left guard, thank God. Maybe Jalen takes a step forward here. And I don't know, Justin Shaper, again, all of the rookies are listed kind of on the back end of the depth chart just for the heck of it right now. So Justin actually may end up being the left guard. If nothing else, he'll be a rotational component for us. And then you still have Caleb McGarry at right tackle. There's a few other guys, Tyler Vrabel, Jermaine Ifedi, I can't say. Ifedi, not sure they'll make the team, so it really probably doesn't matter. But that's going to be a position that unless Caleb really improves this year, we're going to need next year. So offense, I don't have a lot of expectations for. I was genuinely surprised to see Wilkinson ahead of Jalen Mayfield, but I'm pleasantly surprised. Moving on to our defense, I'm really more excited to see the Lions defense because of their draft picks that they had. But, who do I think we're going to see here? Guys that are kind of where I think they should be. Grady Jarrett, obviously listed on our depth chart, number 1 defensive lineman. Then you got Casey Hayward and A.J. Terrell listed at corner for us as the starting corners. Lorenzo Carter, no surprise there. We brought him in for his sack potential. And then the rest of the defensive line is a little bit interesting. Anthony Rush and Taquan Graham, these are both guys that I was a little bit surprised to see on the team here. So Taquan Graham, he was a 5th rounder that we took in 2021. So we're getting a lot of our depth guys who are going to have a shot to prove why they deserve to be the starters. Though I don't know that that's going to work out well for us in real game situations. Hopefully at least 1 or 2 of these guys end up being good and we can extend them for future contracts and just build around them. Marlon Davidson is actually on the back of the depth chart, which is a little bit surprising, seeing as he's been our other defensive lineman for quite some time now, a few years. Moving on to linebacker, inside linebacker, you have Michael Walker, which we took in the, I believe, 4th round in 2020, so he's finally getting a shot. Then Rashawn Evans, who we just got in the offseason, former 1st-round pick for the Titans, now coming to play for us. I'm not really surprised to see him there. Troy Anderson, I don't know where he fits in. He actually may be the starting inside linebacker on the other side there. Not really sure, just because, again, all the rookies are on the back end of this right now, so I'm not really sure where they fit. I would look for him to get significant playing time in the first 3 games this year. Deion Jones is still out, so he's on the pup. Don't know when he's going to return. When he returns, he will supplant probably Michael Walker and Troy Anderson and be the lead guy there. I don't think he takes over Rashawn Evans. I think we're going to see what we've got with him, especially given his his talent coming out of college from Alabama. So I think we're going to see him there. But again, kind of an interesting little mix we've got there. Corner, the rest of our corners, we got Cornell Armstrong, Darren Hall, Mike Ford, Isaiah Oliver. Isaiah Oliver has actually moved pretty far down the depth chart, which he was a starter for us last year. It's going to be the Casey Hayward and A.J. Terrell show. Everybody else is just depth pieces right now. Some of them will make the team, some of them won't. This is where I'm a little surprised. Safety, we're finally kind of leaning on the guys that we've drafted here. So we've got Richie Grant, who we took in the second round of 2021 out of UCF. He is going to be the starting safety. And then right alongside him, a 2024 round pick, Jalen Hawkins. This is their time to shine. This is their time to prove why they deserve to be starting NFL players. If they don't do it, I'm more than fine to move on quickly. Other guys you got there, Eric Harris and Dean Marlowe. Dean Marlowe being a 30-year-old veteran. He's been on multiple teams in the NFL. Not necessarily the best pedigree, but at least he's a vet presence there on the team. And he can help some of the young guys grow. Eric Harris, he's kind of bounced around a little bit. He's been on our team for a couple of years now, coming from the Las Vegas Raiders. Kind of surprised that he's not a little bit further ahead. I thought he would be ahead of Richie Grant or Jalen Hawkins 1 to start the year, and he still may be. But for the time being, that's a little bit of a surprise for me. Outside linebacker, I kind of skipped over this. I can't pronounce this guy's name. I'm going to have to probably figure out, but Mr. Ogundeji, Adetokunbo Ogundeji. He is starting opposite Lorenzo Carter at outside linebacker until Arnold Epikati supplants him. It's inevitable. We took him early in the second round this year. He is definitely going to end up being our other starting outside linebacker. We took him for his sack potential, and we want to see what we've got in him. So it's going to be an interesting preseason. A lot of names that, more or less in the NFL you could consider no names and guys who are going to have to prove it. And that's really what our team is a bunch of guys that are going to have to prove that they belong on this team. We are going to have a ton of cap space next year. Some of these guys are going to be on it next year. Some of these guys are not. Probably most of them are not. We're going to need to rebuild from scratch, and we're going to probably have high draft capital to do it. But that's all I got for you today. I'm really excited for football to finally be starting back. I will have my deep sleeper running back video coming out probably in the next week or so. Believe it or not, sometimes preventing death is a full-time job, and you just don't have time to make these types of videos. But until next time, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you have any different opinions on our team? Do you think that we're going to show out a lot better than I think we're going to this year? Would love to hear from you. Would love to know what you think. Consider hitting the like button. It would help the video out a lot and help me grow as a channel. And consider subscribing if you haven't already. Until next time, thank you for watching, and rise up.